The Central Intelligence Agency is more or less the closest thing that the real world has to an actual supervillain group, despite the fact that according to their website, they are simply an independent agency responsible for providing national security intelligence to senior US policymakers. They've been doing all kinds of wacky and occasionally nefarious things all over the world since America came out on top after World War II. The following list will probably cause you to wonder just what exactly it is that this group of government employees is up to.
Amazing!
Number 10. Operation Mockingbird. Operation Mockingbird was a large-scale propaganda operation that began in the early 1950s and sought to use the media as a way of spreading those opinions that the CIA agreed with. The CIA recruited journalists and used student and cultural groups as fronts to spread their views. Presumably started out of fear of homegrown communism, it is worth wondering what the CIA is currently doing to combat what has been called homegrown terrorism. It is also worth wondering just what exactly CNN journalist Anderson Cooper did during his 2 summers as an intern at the CIA while he was in college. Number 9. Acoustic Kitty. Acoustic Kitty was not the name of an indie film about a high school band, but a $20 million attempt by the CIA to turn a cat into a surveillance device. A veterinary surgeon performed the operation, which implanted a microphone in the cat's ear canal, a small transmitter in its skull, and a wire into its fur. The kitty's first and only ever mission was to eavesdrop outside the Russian embassy in Washington, D.C. Its fate is unknown, with some saying that it was run over by a car, but Robert Wallace, a former director of the CIA's Office of Technical Service, claimed that it survived and was later released. Number 8. Operation Northwoods. The United States government really did not like communist Fidel Castro coming to power in Cuba. Just how little did they like this development? So little, in fact, that they decided that a good way of dealing with it would be to carry out terror attacks on American civilians and blame Cuba so that we could then go and invade them. Operation Northwoods was a proposed false flag operation thought up by the Defense Department and the Joint Chiefs of Staff that would have given CIA agents the task of killing Americans and making it look like it was actually communist. While the proposal was thankfully shot down by the Kennedy administration, it is alarming to wonder what orders future presidents might approve of from the CIA. Number 7. Operation Cyclone. Other places that the CIA did not want to become communist included Afghanistan. Their solution was to fund and arm the militant Islamic groups there who opposed the Soviet invasion in an effort known as Operation Cyclone. But as is the case with many militant Islamic groups, these groups were also fans of killing civilians. They bombed the Afghan capital of Kabul with American-supplied weapons, leaving 2,000 dead. Their leader, Hekmat Yar, maintained friendly relations with Osama bin Laden. While there is no conclusive evidence that American weapons made it into the hands of Al-Qaeda, Operation Cyclone doesn't exactly demonstrate that the CIA is great at keeping track of things they hand out in the Middle East. Number 6. Operation Chaos. Operation Chaos was the name given to CIA efforts to infiltrate and spy on student organizations that spoke out against the Vietnam War during the 1970s. The program's stated goal was to search for possible foreign influences among these groups. The CIA correctly assumed that since they went around covertly influencing political groups, that the Soviets were probably doing the same thing. Perhaps if you're a student, you should look carefully around the room the next time you attend a club meeting. The Soviets are no longer around to try and get you to take down the government, but the US government is very much still involved in monitoring student groups. A leaked FBI guidebook was shown to contain how-to examples on infiltrating classrooms. Number 5. Overthrowing foreign governments. It was George W. Bush who said that we have no desire to dominate, no ambitions of empire. Our aim is a democratic peace. A peace founded upon the dignity and rights of every man and woman. In reality, the CIA has overthrown 7 foreign governments, 5 of which were elected democratically. Iran, Guatemala, Congo, the Dominican Republic, South Vietnam, Brazil, and Chile have all had their governments removed with the help of the CIA. In Iran, the CIA helped to install Mohammad Reza Shah, a member of the Iranian monarchy. It is unlikely that the Founding Fathers would have approved of this, as they were reportedly not huge fans of monarchs themselves. While Bill Clinton actually apologized for the 1954 Guatemalan coup d'etat, stating, "Support for military forces and intelligence units which engaged in violence and widespread expression was wrong, and the United States must not repeat that mistake." The United States currently supports 22 authoritarian regimes around the world. Number 4. Modern art propaganda. One of the more unusual ways that the CIA attempted to combat communism was through the support of modern art. The CIA funded exhibitions and galleries of artists such as Pollock and de Kooning in the hopes that their artwork would have an anti-communist influence on international culture. It was hoped that these artists' wild, free style of painting would demonstrate the superiority of liberal democracy and capitalism over Russia's oppressive government. Supposedly, it demonstrated that American culture was capable of producing new artistic movements in a way that only a free society could. Interestingly though, many of the artists themselves were ex-communists, and certainly wouldn't have seen their art as being some sort of anti-Russian statement. Because this was done entirely in secret, it is entirely possible that the CIA continues to use such methods. And one has to wonder what current cultural trends are being backed by the CIA. Number 3. Operation Paperclip. We tend to remember the Nazis mostly for starting and then committing heinous war crimes during the Second World War, but they also helped NASA put men on the moon. Operation Paperclip was the name given to the CIA's involvement in poaching Nazi scientists after World War II and getting them to come work for the United States. While some were simply given asylum under the condition they worked for the government, others were literally kidnapped out of Germany. The most notable of these scientists was Werner von Braun, who had led the development of the V-2 rocket for Hitler and the Nazis, and went on to lead the development of the Saturn V, the rocket that NASA used to put men on the moon. The Soviets also participated in this forceful recruiting, much like how teams in gym class fight to pick the best players, even if those players had very recently been working for Adolf Hitler. Number 2. The kidnapping of the Lunik. Other CIA space race shenanigans include the kidnapping of the Soviet spacecraft Lunik. In the span of a single night, 4 CIA agents took the entire machine apart, photographed every single piece, then reassembled it without leaving any evidence. Thankfully, the Soviets didn't find out, as our relationship with them at the time was far from friendly. This movie-worthy incident is an interesting look at just how invested in beating the Soviets into space the American government was, and how crucial it was seen to be for public morale. Number 1. Project MKUltra. Project MKUltra is perhaps the most infamous CIA project in American history. Through the use of psychedelic drugs, isolation, hypnosis, and even sexual abuse, the CIA attempted to create mind control. Motivated by reports that the Soviets, Chinese, and North Koreans had used such techniques on American prisoners of war, the CIA set out to develop mind control that could be used on their own captives as well as on foreign leaders. The human test subjects in these experiments were often unaware that they were part of a test, and some of the researchers themselves were unaware of what their experiments were being used for, as they simply received money from CIA front organizations. 14-year CIA veteran Victor Marchetti has stated that while Project MKUltra was officially shut down, in reality the CIA continued to research mind control. Indeed, there is no reason to believe that the CIA has stopped being involved in things such as human experiments, secret cultural influence, and international political manipulation. Do you know of any other CIA secrets we missed out? Let us know in the comments below.